Welcome to Senior Basketball Analyst. This is the much ballyhooed, much talked about top four centers for the 2014-2015 season. The analysts worked very hard on this behind the scenes. Um, we're really proud of this, and this is the kind of exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. So we're gonna throughout this broadcast we're gonna talk a lot about the center table. That's what we use to rate all the centers in the league based on skill sets, and we weighted skill sets based on the center position that were more important and devalued some that were less important. You'll get to see all that content on the seniorbasketballanalyst.com. But for now, we're going to talk about who are the top four centers in the league based on our analysis and our research. And I'm going to do something. I'm going to try something a little different this time and compare uh, this era to an era gone by and go back, rewind 20 years ago, 20 years back to the 1994-95 season. So without further ado, we're going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit about, and first I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with, Tim Duncan. I call him Father Time because, well, it pretty much speaks for himself. It just seems like he's obviously diminishing, but he seems to find new ways to be effective no matter how old he gets. So Tim Duncan was a guy that we argued a lot about. And if you notice, Tim Duncan on my table, um, I had Tim Duncan coming in fifth, and really the reason he fell out of the top four was a lot of it is obviously age. Tim Duncan is not what he used to be. He's obviously a diminished player at this point in his career, but he's still so defensively sound that you have to consider him as one of the top centers in basketball. Um, he fell into fifth, being a guy that can protect the rim, still being a guy that protects the paint very well, guards pick and roll situations very well. From the center position, he can get on the block and score. But you know what he isn't? He isn't. He's never been that efficient a player. I know he gets a lot of credit for being incredibly efficient. He's economical in terms of his movements, but he's never been a center. Like, he's not going to shoot 55% from the field is what my point is. So in terms of shooting efficiency, he's never been a guy that's going to blow you away. He's going to go and shoot 50%, but being a guy that's only getting 13 a game, and I'll give you an example. Andre Drummond basically scores the same amount of points that Tim Duncan does and shoots a higher percentage. So Tim Duncan is not, from an offensive perspective, he's just not that devastating anymore. And that's really where he's backslid. He's a defense first guy. He's always been that way. And, in that regard, he's similar to Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett, defense first guy, will be able to defend till his dying day. But Tim Duncan, his offense finally took a major step back this year. So Tim Duncan, if you notice, he came in fifth. Now, if you notice, and I'm going to talk a little bit about who once we, looked at the numbers and really examined their game, who was just not close, and players who I expected to be closer and just were not in contention. One of them was Big Al Jefferson. And, I looked at Big Al and I said, man, Big Al stunk this year. And here's the thing. He didn't stink overall. It's not like, going out and getting, 17, 18 points, getting 8 rebounds is not a horrible season. But they need Big Al. Big Al's franchise center, man. If they're going to be good, if they're going to go out and make a playoff run, they need Big Al to go out and get 23 and 10. They need Big Al to dominate on the block, shoot over 50% from the field, and get 23 points. They need big-time production out of Big Al. He did not do that. The Big Al fallen into what of the players I rated, and this is the way I picked the players. I said, hey, do they have any chance of cracking the top four? That's how I rated. That's how I decided who we were going to rate. Big Al, coming in 11th place. That was very, very disappointing to me. One of the things that I found that was interesting, and it highlights something that I want to talk about in terms of when we're ranking players or when we're rating a player, right? Notice Tyson Chandler and Al Horford. They had the same score. Tyson Chandler came out a little bit ahead, fractionally ahead. So they're sixth and seventh. I'll talk about Al Horford first. Or actually, I'll just talk about them both. Al Horford and Tyson Chandler, the way we graded them out, we graded them out as being equal in overall ability. But these players couldn't be more different. They're different to the point where they aren't deployed the same way. Tyson Chandler being that rim protecting, pick and roll lob guy to the rim. He's got the famous maneuver that he's popularized, slapping those offensive rebounds out. So not going for an offensive rebound. Like Dennis Rodman famously would tip the offensive rebounds to himself. Tyson Chandler tips offensive rebounds to teammates. So Tyson Chandler will stand in a crowd of people and try to go over the top and slap it out to the perimeter to his teammates. Tyson Chandler has popularized that play. This is what Tyson Chandler brings to the table: elite defense, rim protection, lobs to the rim. Al Horford plays a completely different style of game. Al Horford is a dude, nothing really that great. I do think he is a great mid-range shooter for a center. So he did, we rated him as a 9. But Al Horford is not overall. He's not a great offensive player. He's not a great defender. He's not a great rebounder. What he does is he cobbles overall solid play altogether into making him what is kind of like an elite big man. He's not, I wouldn't say he's an elite big man, but really these terms and rankings are not that particularly relevant. And the reason is because everybody brings a different skill set to the table. You have to see, as a general manager and as a coach, how does this guy fit into what we're trying to do? There's no reason for an organization, for example, look, I'll give you one better. You see what Dallas did. Dallas basically upgraded Tyson Chandler with a younger, similar player in DeAndre Jordan. That is something that makes sense because you know exactly how you're going to deploy this guy. Rick Carlisle can plug. When he plugs in DeAndre Jordan at the 5 position, that is the exact same thing as when he had Tyson Chandler. He's just younger and better. And that's what I mean by it's not particularly relevant when you don't just say when you're looking for a free agent, hey, who's the better guy? It matters how he fits into what you're doing and how you're going to deploy him. What is his skill set? If he's great at things you don't need, but bad at things you need, he's not going to help you win a lot more games. So that's what we're looking for. And that's what you're looking for when you're building a team. But for the purposes of our exercise, just seeing who's the top 4, we continue. Guys like Brook Lopez. Guys like Brook Lopez got penalized very heavily for being, like, in his case, an awful defensive rebounder. Awful defensive rebounder is going to knock you down a lot in the way that we weighted it. Offensive and defensive rebounding was, had a multiplier attached to it by a factor of 2. The multiplier was 3 for, rim protection, post offense, post defense, etc. But him having a 0 on defensive rebounding really killed him. And he is that bad a defensive rebounder. Robin Lopez defends our defensive rebounds like a point guard. He does not affect the game he just abdicates it. He just doesn't care about it. And you can't have that. Another thing you'll notice, Pau Gasol, I guess he was, an all-NBA center, I guess. Pau Gasol's lack of defense and and he's a horrific defender. Don't get it confused. He's a terrible defender. And his lack of defense really knocked him down and knocked him down much further than I thought it would. And you know what? It showed. It's part of why the Bulls were not very effective. Pau Gasol, injury prone, doesn't defend. he didn't really help his team a lot in the playoffs. And this is what happens. You know, a guy throwing a bunch of stats on the table, and the king of that at the center position is Nikola Vucevic. Um, Interesting note: a friend of mine is his uh, parents are from Montenegro, and his grandparents know. You know, Montenegro is not a it's not a big country, and even if you add Serbia, the region itself is just not that big. Even if you combine them both, and his grandparents happen to some way be connected. They happen to know somebody that's in the family of all of the current players from Serbia Montenegro in the NBA. And he pointed out to me one day, and I should have noticed this, but I didn't. All of them are named Nikola. Every one of them. There's Vucevic, Mirotic on the Bulls, and then the the Kryptonian. It's a different ones. The names escapes me at the moment. Uh, Man, I can't think of his name, and I'll think of it probably when the video ends. But anyway, they're all named they're all named Nikola, and they're all centers. Well, I guess Nikola Mirotic would be a four, but the other two are centers. But back to the one that's actually good, um, Nikola Vucevic. Nikola Vucevic is almost a 20 and 10 player. For all intents and purposes, he's a 20 and 10 player, which is rare in the NBA today. But man, this guy is such a bad defender that he's killing his team. He's killing them. And it's at the center position, to be clear, when you don't have good defense at the center position, it leaves the basket wide open. That's why when you don't have good defensive center play, it's very difficult to win a championship. That is why when Golden State just gave up on their centers and went to Goon Green at the center position, they were better off doing that because their centers can't defend. Andrew Bogut just is helpless and can't do anything. And Festus Ezeli is not very good either. So uh, with Nikola Vucevic, if he does not tighten up what he's doing defensively, Orlando is always going to be at a disadvantage. So he graded out horribly too. Now, if you notice at the bottom, I have Patrick Ewing on here, and this is something I'm trying just to put things in perspective as to what has happened to the center position and what's going on with the league in general. I rated Patrick Ewing. You know, I was, these were the glory days of the NBA back in the mid '90s, and I, this is probably mid '80s to mid '90s. This is like the golden age of the NBA. And Patrick Ewing wasn't the best center going, and he was well past his prime. This is how Patrick Ewing graded out relative to what players are doing. I graded him the same way I graded everybody else. Patrick Ewing is basically, he's head and shoulders above Anthony Davis, the guy who I graded out as being number one. Number one. And you just look at his production, and to be clear, we talk about a lot when we talk about who's the greatest of all time and who's this and who's that. Patrick Ewing, make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Patrick Ewing is an all-time great player. He was a great center. And it's possible that he was never at any given point the best center in the NBA. That's possible. But that's the kind of league it was back then. It was the type of league, where you had, the finals with Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing squaring off, two great centers. We remember Shaq getting swept out of the finals by a Hakeem Olajuwon team. So these were great battles at the center position. But just to give you just a quick view of what was going on with Patrick Ewing and what type of guy he was. Patrick Ewing's probably his best season in the league was probably 89-90. At the time, he was 27 years old. He averaged 28 points a game. He played 38 minutes a game at the center position, all 82 games. 28 points, as I said before, 55% from the field. The 28 points at a 55% clip. He also threw in 11 rebounds, a steal, and 4 blocks. This, that's an all-time great center at work, right? What about 94, 95, the year we're comparing? Because we're just rewinding back 20 years. 94, 95, at the age of 32, Patrick Ewing passed his prime, but still great. He averaged 24 points a game. He played 37 minutes, 37 minutes a game, 24 points, 50% clip, 11 rebounds, 0.9 steals, 2 blocks, throws in 2.7 assists to go along with it. And he hits his free throws to 75% free throw shooter. So Patrick Ewing, that's dominant. He would be by far the best center in the league today. And he was not back then. And this is not, this is back again. This is the golden age. This is before all the nonsense. Patrick Ewing was down there banging. And he would hit that fadeaway. He could pick and pop. He could do it all. And defensively, he was a mad dog. And this is the dude that was the leader. And we have all the, the silly mythical stuff on the surface. Man, he's pouring sweat before the game even starts. He comes out the warm-ups. The uniform is drenched. But what went along with that was real production. And I just wanted to show and depict how he compared and how it compared what center play was like back then and what center play is like today. So let's go to the fourth spot. And the fourth spot, in terms of our center position, the fourth spot went to DeMarcus Cousins. This is my man, DMC, man. I love him. I love Boogie Cousins. I love the intensity he brings to the game. I love the way he plays. He's a very versatile, highly skilled guy out of Kentucky. And his ability to combine the offense with the defense, we know the boy is 23 and 12. Dude gets after. He's not playing. He's actually a rare player in terms of the top 4 ranking. Defense is not his strong suit. He is a solid defender, but it's not really his strong suit. And I think part of what holds him back is he's not he can't jump. And him not being able to jump makes him not as effective in terms of rim protection and things like that. So I think as he goes along, he's actually going to I shouldn't say I think. He has been progressively getting better as he gets smarter defensively. He's a very, very smart player. And he never gets credit for that, but he is. He's extremely intelligent as a basketball player. The stuff he does with his passing, the way that he jumps passing lanes defensively, his rotations, we have to keep in mind what you're watching when you're watching the Sacramento Kings team play. They have no continuity. They fire coaches willy-nilly. As an organization, they are completely lost. The current owner is at least a benevolent owner and is at least trying, but he doesn't know what he's doing. The former owners were just complete clowns and just didn't care. So it's very difficult defensively to play cohesive team defense when your coaches just keep flip-flopping around and there's no continuity. But DeMarcus Cousins gives that team a little continuity defensively. And he just does a great job of playing overall. He can operate in the high post. He can handle the basketball. Again, he's a very slick and clever passer. He turns the ball over too much. He does do that, and he has to get better at it. But DeMarcus Cousins is a great, great center, man. He goes out there and competes hard and could reach every facet of the game. He shoots the ball out to 18 feet. He can bang on the low block. He gives you a little bit of everything, and he's a very difficult matchup. I watched a matchup late in the season, late in last season, him and Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis had no answers for him. They had to switch him off of him because he couldn't check him on the block. DMC was just banging him all over the place. And Anthony Davis, that is not his strong suit, guarding a back-to-the-basket banger. Fortunately for him, there aren't that many left. So that's DeMarcus Cousins. That guy, that is our number 4 center. Number 3, we had DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan, as we discussed in the last episode, DeAndre Jordan signed with Dallas. He is the pick and roll, lob to the rim guy. You could throw one of them Matthew Dellavedova style nonsense lobs behind his head and he could reach back and grab it. You don't even have to be accurate with your lobs with DeAndre Jordan. He's the type of guy, if he's on the weak side block and you're driving, if the center hesitates, makes a slight miscalculation, the ball's going to be lobbed over his head and it's going to be a dunk. That is very, very effective for floor spacing. What it means is anytime you're driving and DeAndre Jordan is on your team, the center is going to be hesitating because he doesn't want those lobs flying over his head and his man dunking like that. It's always going to be a chess game in pick and roll and drives with that weak side block because of DeAndre Jordan. We know the obvious points. Rim protector supreme. The dude can jump up and touch the top of the backboard. He rotates hard. He plays hard every second he's in the game. And DeAndre Jordan, really very similar to the guy that I had, that we had here as Senior Basketball Analyst, ranked number 2. That's Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is, same thing every year. Same thing every year. He's a guy that can get buckets on the block. He's not great at it, but he can get a bucket or two on the block, depending on the matchup. Andrew Bogut was helpless against him in the playoffs this year. Dwight Howard is a guy that we know catches the lob still to this day, super supremely athletic, very fast in terms of running the floor. If you notice when you're watching a game where Dwight Howard is playing, people have figured out that the refs do not like Dwight Howard. They're very against him. So they let you beat up on Dwight Howard. So if you notice, whenever the Houston Rockets are defensive rebounding, watch what happens with Dwight Howard when he tries to run the floor. Players grab him from behind. They always do it. They'll just grab his jersey, grab a handful of his jersey. Usually the refs will let him do it. He has to. There was a play with Festus Ezeli. They were doing this to him all the series. They were doing this to him all series in playoffs. Golden State, whether it was Festus Ezeli or Andrew Bogut, they would just grab him when he was trying to run the floor. And he won on one particular play with Festus Ezeli. Festus Ezeli grabbed him in the backcourt. Dwight ran away from him. Then he bumped him at midcourt while he was bumped him from the side and just threw a shoulder into him. No call. Dwight gets it at the rim or tries to set up in front of the rim. Festus Ezeli had no position on him, so just shoved him, couldn't move him. No call. Then once Dwight caught it, they finally just wrapped him up, and then they called that. Dwight Howard deals with the most absurd, horrible officiating going in the league right now. He gets treated worse than DeMarcus Cousins, which I can't say what the motivation is, but I watch the games, and I'm just watching these dudes get beat up all game long, and refs don't say anything. And then if they get near anybody and breathe on the guy, it's a foul on them. I watch people foul them, and then they get called for fouls while they're being fouled. It's ridiculous. But Dwight Howard is a runaway freight train out there. Year after year after year, it's 18-10. You can book it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So Dwight Howard, still to this day, one of the best rebounders in the league, one of the best rim runners in the league at center, and that's in terms of on a fast break pick and roll situation. He's a very, very smart defender these days. One particular play, if you remember, highlight reel type play, Steph Curry spun the ball off the corner of the backboard and spun it in on a Dwight Howard contest at the rim. What that shows you is how Dwight Howard changes shots. So not only is it a great play on Steph Curry's part for him to have that kind of skill level where he's practiced that, where he can spin, put the English on the ball and hit the corner of the backboard and get it to go in, but it also shows you, and I believe he did it with his left hand too, so that's his offhand, but it also shows you how Dwight changes shots. Because you know what? If you're forcing people to take shots at the rim like that all game, that's an effective game because that's not high percentage. That's not high percentage. And for people if you're not Steph Curry, it's probably 0%. So that's the kind of player Dwight Howard is. And number one, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, man, at his young age, is the best center in basketball. Anthony Davis is a guy that really does it in an unconventional way, His idol is Kevin Garnett, one of the guy that he um, looked to and wanted to play like, and the kind of career he wants to have. He's off to a good start. Anthony Davis is a center with guard skills. You know, he can handle the ball out on the floor. He's an excellent distributor. Excellent defender out on the floor and in the paint. Rim protector. Uh, just a great player. Can shoot all the way out to three. Doesn't take a lot of threes, but can shoot out to the three. Can put the ball, as we said before, great ball handler, so can put the ball on the floor with both hands, drive and finish, or drive and make a play for a teammate. Um, his limitations, are strength. He is not the strong. He's still, even though he's built his body up a lot, he does struggle. As I said before, watch games. He struggles mightily back to basket situations against DeMarcus Cousins because DeMarcus Cousins is like, you know, it's him and Zach Randolph in terms of strength on the block in the NBA. If Anthony Davis can develop to the point where he's like Kevin Garnett, where he's not giving up ground on the block, he'll be the best player in the league. He'll be like Kevin Garnett was when he was in his prime, the best. Nobody's better. You know, for those of you for the uninitiated, Kevin Garnett, man, he used to go out and get 23 points a game and get 14 rebounds. And he used to get the rebounding title while he's scoring all his team's points, while he's distributing the basketball, while he's setting all the screens and initiating the offense. He used to do all that, then lead the league in rebounding too. Anthony Davis, if he can get himself physically to that point, he can be that type of player. You know, we'll see what he can do and how he develops his body. But he's already hit a very high mark at a very young age. He is the best center in the NBA. You know, Alvin Gentry earned himself a very nice gig getting to coach this young man. I hope he gets a chance to actually put in a system. And what do we mean by system? What we mean by system is we hope that he gets an opportunity to have a cohesive franchise where the front office is getting players that fit into the kind of offense that Alvin Gentry wants to run, that also fit into the type of defense that he's running. We don't exactly know what he's going to do with this talent. We don't know if Alvin Gentry is going to do things he's done in the past with the Suns. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. But I hope he gets a chance to develop something and similar to the way that Lionel Hollins was able to develop a winning culture in Memphis over the course of, you know, multiple years, increasing the win percentage every year, and over time developing that pinpoint timing that you need. You know, to be a great offensive team, you need crisp timing. And that was what that's how Golden State won the title. That's how Golden State won the title and had that kind of offensive timing in terms of players knowing where guys were going to be before they got there and trusting it and knowing it for a fact. And that takes time. Knowing exactly how long I can wait before I help and trusting that somebody's going to help and rotate behind me. That takes time and it takes effort and practice. And that's something that's developed over several seasons. That's not, or multiple seasons. That's not something that develops instantly. So this is the center position as it stands in the NBA today. We have the best center in the league being Anthony Davis. We have the number 2 center in the league being Dwight Howard. DeAndre Jordan, number 3. Dwight and DeAndre being, you know, almost mirror images of one another, really. And then rounded out with you know, DeMarcus Boogie Cousins DMC at the 4 spot. Now, bonus content, bonus. I'm going to talk really quick about a guy who I've coined the term. I've named, you know, the blackballing and benching and the unfair treatment of centers in the NBA. I've named it after him. It's a guy that goes by the name of Hassan Whiteside. I call it being white-sided when, like, for example, in the finals when Timofey Mozgov scores 28 points and then the next game he gets benched, that's called being white-sided. right? Hassan Whiteside is I graded him out as the 9th center overall in the NBA, even though he wasn't even in the league to start last season. Hassan Whiteside, watch out for that young man. This is a traditional throwback center, back to the basket banger. If you watch Hassan Whiteside play, Hassan Whiteside, Alex Len started a fight with Hassan Whiteside that he couldn't finish, by the way. Started a fight with Hassan Whiteside because he was dunking on him too much. Hassan literally backed him down under the rim and dunked on top of his head 4 times in a row. The dude just couldn't take it. And then Hassan Whiteside tackled him, and then he started a fight with Hassan. Like I said, he couldn't finish. Hassan Whiteside tackled him. It's all over the internet. Hassan Whiteside is not playing around. He's a dude with he's obviously 7 feet tall with the ridiculous wingspan. He's got a little bit of hop to him, but he's strong like a bull. He will back you under the rim. He can turn over both shoulders, and defensively, he gets after it defensively. But most important, he's a rebound machine. Rebound machine. So offensive glass, defensive glass. I mean, he's hanging all over it. Like, he's hanging all over it. He's really the most complete. To me, he's the most complete rebounder in the league because he's both a great defensive and a great offensive rebounder in terms of percentages. He's a guy that there was a game he got in the first quarter, he had all of his team's defensive rebounds. All of them. That's the type of dude he is. He can go out and say, you know what? I'm going to get all our rebounds. Nobody gets any rebounds. I get all of them. He's that type of dude. He can do it. Pat Riley, that was one of those things. Pat Riley made a fool of everybody in the league, just like he famously did in the draft this year with Justice Winslow. And that's going to pay dividends down the line. The Miami Heat have a real nice starting lineup. Dwayne Wade, we all know, signed the 1-year deal, $20 million. Goran Dragic, Dwayne Wade, Luol Deng, Chris Bosh, and Hassan Whiteside, two of the best starting lineups in the league. Look out for the Miami Heat. They have a real nice center. They have a top 10 center that they found in the street. The boy goes by the name of Hassan Whiteside. So that's your bonus content. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all had a good time on your Independence Day. Had a lot of barbecue and enjoyed the fireworks. So I will be back very soon with new content all summer long. So keep checking for the Senior Basketball Analyst. You know that.
Suckers I maul, they fall and crawl into the pit of purgatory. I go for glory. I'm taking inventory, counting all the tough luck.